Hello, everyone. This is Tim, and this is going to be a sort of end cap for my Lamentations of the Flame Princess campaign. On YouTube, I have it set up in two different playlists, and this will be the last video of the second playlist, The Survivors of Pembertonshire. For those of you that have listened to all of the sessions, I feel like I should go out and print like T-shirts that says like "Survivors of Pembertonshire" on the front of it or something like that, and send them out to you guys. But I think the shipping would be a nightmare. But yeah, I know there's only a handful of you guys that actually do that. Don John Doe has been going through. I think he got through the first half of the campaign. So if he makes it this far, congratulations, man. You're awesome. So, and thanks for giving me a lot of encouraging words throughout the campaign. I needed them in certain parts, where I was getting a little discouraged by things. So thanks for listening in. Thanks for Dungeon Master 50. He was checking things out and giving me feedback, and he said that he likes to listen to him while he's on patrol. Just some background noise in the background. So that's cool. Some things that I learned about myself from this campaign. This was a hard campaign for me to run, but maybe not in the way that you might expect. I had a hard time with players leaving. And with the YouTube RPG community, it's not too hard to get new people in, but whenever people leave, like I say in my videos, whenever they vote with their feet, often they're doing it because of something that's wrong or they're not enjoying themselves. They don't like the setting, they don't like the campaign, they don't like me as the GM. All these thoughts start to float through your head and start to discourage you. And I think that's probably why I was trying to get feedback at the end of the session every time to try to hear from people. People would just sort of drop off, or just they weren't communicating very well at times. Uh, but a lot of that too, I think, is just in my own head. I think I put in a lot of negative things that I think people might be thinking, and they're not. So, so yeah, so all that kind of stuff. I did get some criticism from one of my friends who said that I was a sadistic GM, and when I heard that, it kind of it hurt, but I was looking for that kind of feedback. I want to try to improve, and I really took that to heart. It hurt, but it was good to hear that he didn't enjoy the way I ran Lamentations, and I asked around a little bit, asking people what they thought, and I haven't really got a ton of feedback about that, but I did talk to some Lamentations of the Flame Princess GMs and players, and some of them also said that the modules are sadistic. They're horrible. There's terrible things going on. Lots of bad stuff happens to your characters, and that in essence is what Lamentations of the Flame Princess kind of is. Yes, there's adventure. Yes, there's pulp and weird story kind of things, but there's also that sadistic edge. That's just ingrained in the modules, I guess. I thought I was running it fairly, but getting feedback from players, it made me kind of evaluate how I run games as a GM. And halfway through the campaign, Same Old G put out a series of videos talking about GM roles and player roles, and and some stuff came out in that made me kind of think, well, geez, I think I do sort of narrate emotions sometimes, and I, just little things like that, just made me question how I do things, and it almost felt like that foundation, I've been running games for so long, started to crumble a little under my feet, and I sort of had like this, I don't know, just self-reflection period where I was wondering, what the hell am I doing here? If I'm not doing it well, why am I doing it at all? That sort of thing. And some of that is the GM burnout that I've had issues with before. But I want to look on the bright side. I was able to run, I think, about 23 sessions of Lamentations of the Flame Princess at 3 hours a pop. So that's pretty cool. I'm looking on the bright side. I ran the people of Pembertonshire, and I really love that weird little horrible town. I could see myself running that campaign, did that town-based campaign at other times in my life, and I think, showing people all those weird NPCs, I would get enjoyment out of it. I think I really appreciated the way that Raji set that up. I think it's one of the best things he's ever done. I really think it's that good, and it's interesting because the PDF isn't flashy. It's just different blocks of text for all the different NPCs. but that's all it needs to be. It's just really cool. So yeah, when they left the town, that's the second part of the campaign. I felt like I was sort of scrambling a little bit, like, oh crap, they actually want to leave the town. What am I going to do now? But I had a pile of Lamentations of the Flame Princess modules, so I decided, better than any man. It was big, it's free, plenty of area to move around and do different things, and that's what the second campaign was about. Um, at the very last session, we well, I guess it was like the next to last session. We actually never had the last session, which just kind of sucks. It just didn't work out. People their work schedules had changed and so forth. And there was a lot of that. I don't know if Saturday is just a terrible day to try to run games or what, but people just have a hard time finding that time, that 3 hour period of time, just to sit down and play the game. Opportunities come up, and that's awesome. I'm not trying to downgrade all the players or anything. Please don't take it that way. It was just, from my perspective, it was hard to keep the consistency of the campaign, keep the same characters, keep things rolling, and it was a challenge. But I did it as best I could. I put forth what I thought was interesting. Yes, disturbing, but uh, it is what it is, and it's all online. so if it's terrible and it sucks, all I can say is that I'm sorry and I did my best, and that's all I can really do. I learned a lot. I think the next time I run anything Lamentations, I'm gonna make sure that I spell out in detail how terrible, horrible, weird, messed up it can be at times. Because I thought that I had done that, but I think for some people they just didn't understand. I think they signed up for something that they weren't they weren't really sure exactly what it was. They might have had an idea like, oh, it's like D&D but different, or it's like, it has some horrific edges to it, and it's just more than that. So I don't know. One thing that I did for the last session, really, I just went around and asked the players that were still in the game, how would you want your character to end? What kind of ending do you want to write for your character? You have, in a sort of way, I phrase it like this. The campaign has just been a series of horrible events, and you might think that the ending is going to be horrible because chocolate, 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 just chocolate on the end, chocolate syrup on top. But I just said, let's have a good ending. Write something that you want to have happen with your character. So here's a list of some of the things that have happened. Two of the characters I'm going to mention dropped out, earlier, and they became NPCs, and this is just what happened. So I'm going to do those first. Rayhan was played by Zig Copacetic. He is now the floating god, that is his name, and he is worshipped by orphan children and the kid skeletons from inside this mound, this ancient ruin, that have gems in the center of their forehead. He is in this weird sort of divine coma where he mutters and utters strange things that are written down by the children, and then those phrases are chanted and hummed and memorized and written into the book of Rayhan. So he became a god. So that's what happened to Rayhan. Ramelzi, he was left behind at Goblin Hill, and that's where the mother was, brainwashing people, having all kinds of strange things with insects and people and strange experiments. But he was left there when the group was transported violently to the town of Karlstadt. So eventually he was brainwashed and tied up and manipulated. More bad stuff for Rayhan. But hold on. He eventually married the mother against his will, and she was almost killed by the characters before she teleported them off, but she did live. So he was married to the most powerful of the seven, and they were up at Goblin Hill, which is in the north, and they were down in Karlstadt. And the Cantel army, which was coming down from the north the whole time, finally got to Goblin Hill. So Ramelzi is out there, brainwashed, doing his wife's bidding, when something snaps. He's killing people by droves with his arcane magic that has actually improved in strength since the mother has taken over him. She sort of channeled some of his chaotic energy, and he snapped. He's like, "What am I doing?" whatever imprinting was done on his mind, he was able to undo, and he ended up killing the mother. And after he had done that, the Cantel army realized, you just destroyed all these people. They could have been mad and killed him, but they decided that no, this is a weapon that we can harness. So they hired Ramelzi on as their arcane caster for their forces. So now Ramelzi is part of the arcane order of the Cantel army. And for Sergei, this was Tim's character, or other Tim One, I think is his handle. Ramelzi was played by Ghoster74 or Meta Rockwell, if you want to check him out. So Sergei decided that he was going to head south to Wurzburg, and he's going to spy out the city. This is where the Prince Bishop was. And he basically just wanted to find out where their weaknesses are, where the strengths were, and sort of act as an advanced scout for the Cantel army, sort of a mercenary that hasn't been hired yet. And he decided that, after spying things out, he was going to head north and give this information to, whoever was leading the Cantel Empire. They never learned that in game. And just, be a very good resource that they would hire him on or give him money and send him on his way. After he would do that, he said that he wanted to establish a cult of the stars and lead the inhabitants in blood rituals, divining from the intestines of animals, so forth and so on. He also wanted to become their high priest. So perhaps some of the refugees from Karlstadt that he was interacting with would come into that cult because they had seen some of the things that he was able to do. And he did have some power at the end there. He had some ability to see the future and to see far away where he shouldn't be able to. So, yeah. And when they fell into Karlstadt, some of those children were there and they witnessed him fall out of the sky. So that was going to be part of his mystique, is that Sergei fell from the heavens and he has these abilities. So that was kind of cool. Luther, this was played by Phil or Philippe Wangohira. He is going to single-handedly go into Karlstadt, kill off the witches and their demonic animal creatures that they travel with, their familiars. He's going to kill them all one by one. And, like I said, I was kind of letting them narrate things out. And Luther was a pretty interesting character. I really liked that Phil came in at the very end of the campaign. He helped me out. He became one of the, dependable guys at the end there. I feel bad that, he only played for a short time, but, it is what it is. So he's going to kill all the witches, and when the Cantel army comes to Karlstadt, they're going to find the heads of all the witches that were in Karlstadt on pikes outside of the town, and Luther is going to be standing there, So I said that he was probably going to get hired on with the army, that he would have a lot of prestige as a witch killer, maybe even found, some order of witch killers, and they can go across the land cleansing places of, all this devilry and so forth, all these strange rites that these women were doing. So that's the way he ended up. And Tavis, he was the specialist with bleeding hands that could heal. He was left with the 40 kids. These kids that they'd taken out of Karlstadt away from the Seven or away from their parents. And he didn't really know what to do with them. So he decided that he's going to try to take them all, like a shepherd leading the flock over to another town, someplace safe, someplace that the kids can grow up in safety and perhaps even just a good life. And what turned out is that one of the kids was a son of a wealthy merchant, and that merchant had put out a reward for his return. So Tavis returned the kid, got wealthy, was able to provide a place for all these kids to live, found families for them, and eventually he was able to return back to his place where he came from to claim the daughter that he wasn't able to claim before. So everyone's storyline kind of finished up. Some of the characters, like Ash the elf, just wandered off into the distance, probably returned to their people, having experienced this much time with the humans, just realizing that it wasn't for him, that he wanted to go back to with his own kind where things were less strange. And there are a lot of other characters that played in the campaign, other players. Tom Ray played for a while. I just want to thank everyone that gave it a shot. I want to thank you for, just coming into one of my games and seeing what could happen. I'm sorry if it wasn't for you. I'm sorry if Lamentations wasn't for you. I just want to say that I did my best, and I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings or bored you to tears or just did things in such a way that you would never do as a GM. So I guess that's pretty much it. Thanks for playing, guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening in to all the audio. I appreciate it. All right, I'll talk to you guys later, and maybe in the near future, I'm going to be running a Wars setting, New World of Darkness sci-fi game. Not sure if that's going to end up on YouTube, but I have a feeling it probably will. So, all right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Thanks.